Hi, everyone. Well, thank you so much for being here to learn more about our MSPA program here at Keck Graduate Institute. As Johnny mentioned, we are just getting started with our very first class coming on campus in a month. So we are really thrilled about the program that we are building and are excited to share more about it with you today. Today, we're going to be going over, the PA profession for those of you who might not be, super sold yet on the PA profession. So we can tell you a little bit more about the profession. We'll go over our program as well, and then talk in depth about our admissions process so that you can have an idea of what it is going to take to be able to become a PA, but especially by coming to our MSPA program here at KGI. So I wanted to start by first introducing our team. So again, my name is Dr. Christy Eskes, and I'm the program director for our MSPA program. I have been a PA since 2003. Pretty much have worked primary care my whole career, along with PA education for several years as well. And so I am providing that primary care perspective. And I'm going to ask Dr. Jason Laird to go ahead and introduce himself and tell you a little bit more about him.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jason Laird. I'm the Director of Clinical Education here at KGI. I began my career out of college as a pharmaceutical rep and realized pretty quickly that I was on the wrong end of what I was doing and wanted to be in healthcare. And that's what led me to pursue being a PA. I went to PA school out in Drexel in Philadelphia, began working on the East Coast in emergency medicine, missed home and transitioned back into neurosurgery here, got my first taste of what being a surgical PA is. And then for about the last 11 years, I've been working in general and thoracic surgery. And through that process, I was able to be in the whole outset of robotic surgery, and I was able to be involved in the very onset of that, and then became a regional trainer for robotics and robotic surgery for the bedside PA role. And now I've made my transition into the educational role, and I just couldn't be more excited about where our profession's heading and making some of the changes that I think our students are going to bring to our profession. So very excited to have you all here. And I'm going to hand this over now to Professor McElroy.
Hello and good afternoon, I guess now. My name is Stacy McElroy. I'm an assistant professor here at KGI in the PA program. I actually have been a PA since 1999. And I actually started out my professional career as a healthcare consultant and decided, sort of like Jason, that I needed to be on the other side of healthcare, and went back to school and pursued my PA at Midwestern University in Arizona, and have been working in predominantly surgical and tertiary care facilities since then. I worked at Mayo Clinic for about 13 years in orthopedic oncology and large joint reconstruction, and have been in open ICU as well as level 1 trauma. And now I still work at Cedars-Sinai at Curl and Jobe during sports medicine on Fridays, and have predominantly been in all surgical types of fields, and have truly enjoyed that. So I look forward to continuing to impart that knowledge upon your future PA students. And so I'm going to pass this off now to Dr. Lauren Bolda.
Hey everyone, my name is Dr. Lauren Bolda. Just as Stacy and my colleagues have been talking about, I am an assistant professor here at KGI. I went to undergrad at California Baptist University, and then my master's in PA program was at Loma Linda University, and I graduated in 2017. Since the beginning of my trajectory in medicine, I've been working in emergency medicine, so working with various EMS groups and working with Arrowhead Regional Medical Center in the emergency department there. And I currently work with Vituity in both emergency and urgent care medicine. And so I'm really excited for all the things that our profession has to offer, but also how we're growing in all these areas, as all four of us have discussed, from family medicine to emergency medicine to surgical subspecialties. There's just so much trajectory for growth, and you guys have chosen the right place to be at the right time. So we're actually going to flip this back onto you now, and we'd like to hear in the chat how you heard about the PA profession and what draws you to be a PA. And don't be shy. We're all we all started somewhere. I started in music, and so you can see Jason started in pharmaceutical sales, and we've all kind of been across the spectrum. So we'd love to hear from you, whether that's unmuting yourself and having a conversation with us, or maybe including that in the chat. Nice. So one of you joined your alma maters. Oh, said it to everyone. So this is from Makala. I'm sorry if I said it wrong, but joining the alma maters pre-PA club and other PAC networking. A lot of pre-PA clubs from a friend during undergrad. Awesome. So it seems like a lot of these pre-health programs where we're kind of reciprocating back into the environment where we were put into the environment as well. So that's awesome. Mom is a physician and told you to look into PA school. Awesome. Okay, well, I'm going to close that off, but you guys can continue to read those within the chat. So we'll also kind of go into a little bit more here at KGI. We do follow an active learning model, and some of that includes getting you involved in our curriculum and getting you involved in our lecture material before we start on it. So this is an open-ended question for you all, and we'd love to hear what you think a PA can do. So the question is, a PA can perform all of the following except A, conduct medical histories and physical exams, B, order and interpret labs and diagnostic studies, C, prescribe medications, including controlled substances, D, perform clinical and surgical procedures, E, own your own medical practice, or F, all of the above can be done by a PA. Everybody's saying E, we have one F. So actually, depending on your state, PAs can own a medical practice. We just talked about this a little bit before our meeting, actually, but 99% of the ownership can be in a PA's name, but you do have to have that doctor for your supervising provider. So the answer is F, all of the above can be performed by a PA. So what can PAs do, and how can we help tackle a physician shortage in our profession and in the healthcare environment? Laws do vary by state, so a lot of what we'll be talking about today has to do with California and practice in California, but this is a snapshot of PA capabilities within those within those systems. So PA's specific duties depend on the setting in which they work, their level of experience, their specialties, and their state laws. But generally, a PA can take medical histories, they can diagnose and treat illness, they can conduct physical examinations, they can prescribe medications, they can develop treatment plans and perform procedures, they can counsel on preventative care, they can do clinical research, they can order and interpret tests, they can make rounds in hospitals and in nursing homes, and they can also assist in surgery. And it's a great time to be a PA. Based on growth potential, work-life balance, salary, it continues to rank as one of the top jobs year after year with the US News and World Report based on surveys of career professionals. And what does it take to be a PA? Well, really, it comes down to education, right? You got to learn a little bit before you can go out and practice. A PA must earn a master's degree at minimum, and the average length for those programs is about 27 months. Usually 12 to 15 months are spent in the classroom, and then 12 months are spent in clinical experiences. And then following all of that, you need to pass a national certifying exam. For us, that's called our PANCE exam. And that happens after graduation. And then annually, or every 2 years, I'm sorry, you need to complete 100 hours of continuing education. And then we retake our certification exam every 10 years. There are new elements of taking this recertification exam called the PANRE LA, where we can actually participate in ongoing continuing education and testing. And so there are a lot of options to make sure that you are the best professional as you continue on in your life goals and your longevity as a PA. And now I'll pass this over to, oh, I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and talk about a little bit more about the PA program itself, as well as share a little bit more about Keck Graduate Institute. So Professor Stacy McElroy.
Hello, I'm going to talk a little bit about our program itself, but to introduce us right now, the Keck Graduate Institute is the 7th school of the prestigious Claremont colleges. There's 5 undergraduate schools and 2 graduate schools. Keck Graduate Institute was established in 1997, And all of the Claremont colleges are really proponents of entrepreneurship and innovation. Keck Graduate Institute is exemplary with regards to this, and we're very proud of that at this point. So the mission, you guys can read just as well as I can, but I'm just gonna kind of hit some highlights, but I want you to be aware of the mission of KGI. You're gonna see this in the PA programs that you're applying to. So just know that many PA programs all have missions and visions. And so just be aware of those as you're applying, and they're all probably somewhat similar, but some have very different directions in which they go. So just make sure your personal values line up possibly with the missions and values as you're applying to these programs. So our mission is, we're going to, the mission of the future MSPA program is to develop high quality PAs who are dedicated to advancing healthcare through leadership, commitment to their communities, and compassionate care of diverse populations. And the vision is similarly redefine PA education through innovative teaching methods, rich clinical experiences, interprofessional collaboration, and leadership training. And our goal being that our graduates will play an integral role in promoting health equity, shaping the future of healthcare, and clinical, administrative, and academic roles. So our program overview, we touched on this previously. So if you were to apply, you would be applying for the fall of 2023. And with a graduation date of December of 2025, a 27-month program in total, 12 months or 15 months of didactic, and then 12 months of clinical rotations. And as far as so now PA schools have just kind of exploded, as we have discussed with Dr. Bolda earlier. It's a great profession, and it's very well renowned, and it's so there's now, we were just looking this morning, 287 programs as of today, and that doesn't take into account programs that are just now receiving provisional accreditation.
I think it's
And this is what makes us different. And we are really committed to developing PAs that have a propensity for leadership, entrepreneurship, and being leaders in the healthcare field. We have an additional focus in surgery and emergency medicine that many programs you're going to see have different focuses as you start going through your application process. Many are looking at primary care type fields. We are dedicated in teaching you to come out and have an additional skills and experience in surgery and emergency medicine, so you could hit a surgical job running right out of the gates. We have really committed to a robust interprofessional collaboration with our PharmD colleagues, as well as our occupational medicine colleagues, because as a PA, you're going to be collaborating throughout your entire career. So this is something that's going to be important to you, and we're committed to doing that throughout your education here at KGI. We're also going to start your clinical experiences within your didactic phase from an early, so that you can experience what it's like to be in the clinics, start seeing patients with providers, or just listening, taking histories, and being part of the healthcare experience early on in your educational career here. Community health, we do have a community health class where you'll be surveying community health, taking into account what is around in your community or where you come from in your community, how to best serve those communities, and the social determinants of health that go into being an excellent healthcare provider, and how you take those into account as a provider in the future. And we are very committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion in our program as a provider, as well as a faculty. And we're just committed to being a good partner to our community and to our diverse communities that we are serving here locally. Go ahead, Christy.
So we're going to go ahead and kind of give you an overview of our curriculum itself, so you have an idea of how we're going to be teaching in our program and how we've set it up. So one of the things, Dr. Jason Laird is going to be going over all of our curriculum for both the didactic and the clinical phases. But one of the things to note about across PA programs all across the country is that PA school is really intense. It is that master's degree, but it is a lot of information that you receive. So when you look at PA programs, everyone has the opportunity to do it a little bit differently and to be able to organize how we're going to be teaching a little bit differently. So as you start your PA journey, if you decide that this is what you want to do, you really want to select programs based on how you feel they are going to prepare you to be the kind of PA that you want to be, especially looking at their curriculum. So don't just look at, I'm doing this caveat right before we begin, but don't just look at admissions and which program can I get into, but it's really which program aligns with your goals as a future PA, and make sure you're being really careful about that. So I'm going to have Dr. Jason Laird share with us about how we have structured our curriculum here at KGI.
Thank you so much, Dr. Eskis. And that was a great introduction and some really, really keen advice from Dr. Eskis. I hope you all heard that, because that was wonderful advice she just gave you. So as far as for KGI, this is our didactic phase. And you can see really what Dr. Eskis was talking about. If you look at the credit hours listed at the bottom of the slide, you'll see that really PA school is recreating the amount of credit hours that you did for your entire undergraduate degree in 27 months here at KGI. So really repeating that, but in half the time. And this is all graduate hour work. So this is really, really high level, high focus hours. And it's basically 4 years of work in 2. So I really just want to make sure you're taking that point away when you're looking at PA programs and investing in this. You can see for us, we begin with the foundations year, which is our very first fall semester. We call it foundations because it's really the foundation on which all of your knowledge will be built as you move forward. Basically that reference knowledge and that introductory knowledge that you'll need to enter this profession and this growing in this education. And then if you look forward through spring, summer, and fall, you'll really see that kind of unlike some other programs or maybe other focused areas of medicine you've looked at, our courses tend to go along through each semester. So you'll see that, PA professional practice moves across, clinical and diagnostic skills moves across, because we're really building upon that foundation of knowledge in preparation for you to go out into your clinical training and put this all into practice. Some interesting things that you might see that differentiates KGI from some of the other programs that you may be considering or looking at is that we're really focused on clinical aspects of your training. We have this clinical and diagnostic skills that runs all the way through. We also are going to have early clinical experiences so that you can begin to put some of these things into practice. We'll be training our students in a regional approach. So when you're looking about learning about cardiac function in your anatomy class, you're going to be learning about pharmacotherapeutics and the diagnostic skills related to that all at the same time. And then hopefully having some early clinical skills where you can begin to see how that's put into practice. So really trying to shape your thinking and introduce you to what you'll be doing as a career early on. Something else to really notice that KGI is differentiated, and one of our main focuses is the Fundamentals of Surgery and Emergency Medicine course, which is a separate course that we have at the end of our didactic training. And although we'll be introducing you to the skills of surgery and emergency medicine like any other program, we're really having an emphasis on this as a separate course so that we can try and prepare you for this, because we're aware that roughly 50% of students are now starting to look at subspecialties and ER as an area of focus for their career. So trying to meet that demand and meet what our students are telling us, we're really trying to stress that and help students learn, not only learn so that they can go out and get a job, which is most important, but also learn to make sure that's really what they want to do, because sometimes it sounds exciting, but maybe the reality of what it is isn't exactly what their career should be. So we're really trying to prepare you the best way we can for what the PA profession is moving towards now. This new vision of the AAPA. If you all haven't looked, I would encourage you all to get onto the AAPA site. I would encourage you to become student members, and I would encourage you to begin to learn about this profession, because we're really trying to meet this direction that the whole profession is heading. So we can go ahead and move on. So moving into the clinical phase, this is my area of love and nurturing. This is obviously what I'm overseeing, so I will try to be brief about it. But you'll notice that we have supervised clinical practice experiences, or SCIPs as they're called. And these are where you go out and you put things into practice and you learn about each area of medicine and you learn what's really going on there and you learn how to interact with patients. You actually learn how to do this job. And our rotations, you might notice that other PA programs have a little bit of variation here, different number of rotations, different length and rotations. But here at KGI, we're doing six week rotations and of 8 different rotations. And we're covering all of the different disciplines that you might see: emergency room, surgery, internal medicine, and such. And you'll be doing all the things that you would be expected to do. You will be hands-on doing this. This is not a shadowing experience. This is actually learning how to do it and making sure that, you know, any limitations that you have or anything that's difficult for you is flushed out so that you are ready to get to work as soon as you finish. All right, next slide. So here's just a listing of our actual clinical phase. You know, I'll let you read through what we're doing, the different rotations, but really what I use this slide for is to help you focus on the fact that there are didactic courses that continue throughout your clinical training. And this is slightly different as well as some other programs. Primarily, this will be related to research that you'll be doing, a graduate level project that you'll be submitting, but you will be learning and you will be coming back to KGI after each rotation so we can help work through all of your experiences, help put that picture together for you, test your skills and make sure that you actually learned and met your learning objectives and that you're ready to move on. So we really are trying to close the loop through all of these things, make sure that you're prepared, make sure that not only will you pass your boards, which is what is the focus of so many PA programs, but we really want to make sure that you're employable. We really want to make sure that you will be successful and have a very long and rewarding career. So that's what all of these things are meant to do. And we can go ahead and move on there. But just to wrap up, just to let you know, I think there's a lot of questions that come to clinical years and clinical rotations. I would encourage you to save some of those to the end in the Q&A session. Between all of us, we'll be able to help focus those questions. But I truly believe that the clinical year is where everything comes together. I think it's a very important thing for you to consider. I think when you're choosing PA schools, I think that the clinical year is an area of focus that you really should be asking questions about. What's the philosophy of the program that you're in? What's the focus of the program that you're in? And how do those rotations really serve to meet those goals? So I appreciate the time and I look forward to your questions at the end. So go ahead, Dr. Eskes.
So as I know, we've, kind of shared a little bit about each of us and some of our roles. We have a lot of obviously diversity in what we do, right? So I have done primary care my whole career. Dr. Bolda has done emergency medicine and urgent care, and Dr. Laird and Professor McElroy have done a lot of surgical subspecialties. Is there something already that you feel like from just your research or even just from us talking that is the most interesting about the PA profession? What has kept you kind of hooked in to the profession? What was it that you heard from that advisor or when you saw that PA or got to talk to the PA? What was it about the profession that you felt was the most interesting to you? So you can pop that in the chat as well. I'd love to see that. I know it can take a little bit sometimes. Sometimes these ones are a little bit more than just like a yes or no answer. Flexibility, the versatility. Yeah, absolutely. Lateral mobility, that's huge. Yep, patient driven for sure. Very collaborative, but yet autonomous. Ooh, I love that. Absolutely. Yes. And, it's great because even though, I've done primary care now for 19 years, if I wanted to go into surgery, I probably wouldn't walk into the operating room and start, operating on somebody. But I could have that flexibility. So many of you have talked about that lateral mobility is so huge. And that's why the PA training is really great because you are getting a wide exposure. Our profession really was designed to help meet the needs of, the gaps in healthcare, of course. So healthcare shortages, we all know there are so many areas, especially in the United States, but even all over the world, where there's healthcare shortages, and our profession is really uniquely designed to be able to help meet those needs because it's not just primary care anymore. As much as I love and live and breathe primary care, there's shortages in every field and PAs are everywhere. And the profession is even expanding internationally too. So I love that. And I love what Chloe just said. Every PA, loves their job. And it's so true. When you look at satisfaction surveys, I mean, there's a lot of burnout now just because of, healthcare, and just the last couple of years has really, been hard on everybody, I think in every profession. But PAs really do love our profession and we love our jobs. And if you look at surveys, most of us say that we wouldn't do anything else. And the future is changing. Our name is changing from assistant to associate to kind of be more true to who we really are, because we aren't assisting others. We are really a standalone profession that has to, stand on our own 2 feet. And that's something that is really exciting about our PA profession changing. We don't just work under other professions anymore. We get to really see, treat, do everything that we can with patients and in whatever setting that we want. And that can change throughout your career as well. So I think Dr. Laird's a great example of that, going from non-surgical into a different type of surgery into a different type of surgical profession, and now doing PA education as well. So I love this. There's a lot of growth in our profession, and I think, you all are going to be contributing to that as well. But the future is very, very bright. So I absolutely want to get to our admissions process, because I know there's already been a little questions about this, and I want to make sure that we get to cover this. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Now, this aligns really well with what our website has. I know that Johnny had put into the chat a link to some of all the prerequisites and everything. We're going to go over them, but we really tried to be very intentional in all of our materials online for our program in trying to kind of answer all your questions for you in a lot of ways, but there's always questions that pop up and we're happy to answer them live too. So in our admissions process, we believe that we have really designed this holistic approach. So to us, you are more than just your DPA. You have so many life experiences that you are coming in with. You have a different reason why you want to be a PA. There's these certain marking experiences in our lives that we have had that set us onto a life path that we're meant to have. And so many, we read lots of applications for our program. And so many people have had, really incredible experiences that have allowed them to, really flourish, or maybe have had to overcome some pretty intense circumstances and have given us kind of that grit factor and being able to persevere and overcome. We want to take all of that into account, everything about who you are, as we're making application decisions. So we try, when we're looking at all the stats, and of course we have minimums, and we'll talk about that for your academic, basically your academic abilities, right? Because we have tests we take. It's so intense, as Dr. Laird was sharing earlier. There's so much information. However, you are so much more than just a stat that I can see on paper. And that's really what, when you're completing an application for our program or for any program, we want to see you for who you are. I don't want to see just your stats. I want to know, things about you. And so that's really important to us. So in our process, we actually, give, additional considerations and points and things for some of those life experiences that you go through. And I think it really is a really nice rounded way to evaluate you as a potential applicant for KGI. Next slide. So these are our admissions by the numbers, is what we call it. So we will go through each one of these individually, but basically you do have to have a bachelor's degree. So let's start there. Next slide. So the bachelor's degree for us, we recognize that a lot of people who are coming to the PA profession are going to be non-traditional students who may not have necessarily gone through and gotten all of their courses right when you're in your 4-year degree, or who may not have even gone and gotten a 4-year degree right away. So we didn't want that to be a barrier. So for us, if you are still in progress with your bachelor's degree, as long as you're going to complete it by next year, if you were going to be applying for this next cycle, if you were going to be completing it by next year, this is the year that you would be entering PA school. It just needs to be completed by June 15th. We're a little flexible with that date if your institution, doesn't confer a degree until the 18th or the 20th or whatnot, but we just want it to be complete by that day. And we don't really care if you had a science degree or if it was a music degree or an English degree. What's really important is the prerequisite courses. And then we do recognize that, of course, if you have an undergraduate degree in biochemistry, that degree probably, took a lot of more effort than, a degree in a non-science when you're looking at the sciences. So we look at that when we're looking at you in context, but it doesn't mean that that's how it has to be. And in fact, for our incoming class that we have this year, I'd say the most common degree out of the 40 students has been biology, but it's only 17 of the 40. We see a wide variety of degrees coming into this class. So That is really important. Next slide. This is a big one. So every program, not every, almost every program has a minimum GPA. There are some programs that do not have minimum GPAs, but you will be more competitive in most programs if you hover above the 3.0. For us, the GPA is an actual hard and fast minimum, meaning if you are at a 299, we don't round up. You have to have a calculated GPA from every course you've ever taken. That by the time you hit submit on your CASPA application, that GPA has been calculated by CASPA to be 3.0 for both all the courses that you've taken, but also all the science courses that you've taken. CASPA has really good information about how to kind of estimate what your GPA is going to be based on all of your transcripts. There's also free GPA calculators out there. So if you're really, really close and you've got that 299 and you know you're taking the middle of a course right now that can bump you up over that, please don't apply until that other course is done and that the grade is recorded, because I know we're not the only program that does this. There are other programs out there that if you don't meet that 3.0 minimum, they run a calculation in the CASPA application and you get automatically denied. So make sure that every program that you're looking at, that you meet that minimum GPA if there is one, because otherwise it's just wasted money for you. And we want to help you be successful in this process. So we also will not be recalculating grades or your GPA. So we will note if you have, some courses that you're taking right now and you're at a 3.1 and you take, 4 courses right now, we'll note that you got A's in those courses, but we're not going to recalculate your GPA for you. So it's really at the time of your application, whatever that GPA is what carries through our admissions process. We have 7 prerequisite courses that we're going to go through, but some requirements about each of these courses. You have to have taken all of them within the last 10 years. So if you are someone who has been working in the healthcare field for 15 years and you haven't taken an anatomy course in that entire time, we will require that you take one, because all of our coursework that we went over earlier, we're not reteaching anatomy from the beginning, just like you had in your prerequisite course. We're teaching it with a medical application. So we expect you to have come in, and this isn't the first time you're hearing about the different muscles that are in the upper extremity and the origins and the insertions and the nerves and all these things. We're building on your previous knowledge, and we're giving it with a lot of clinical applications. So we expect you to have a very strong with your prerequisite courses, that you have a strong base built. Okay. The other thing is that you have to have completed all of these prerequisite courses through a United States accredited institution. So if you are someone who is coming from another country and you have a medical degree or some kind of a degree from the other country, we will accept the degree, but not any of your coursework. So just make sure that all your courses are taken in the US. And then there are these online accelerated prerequisite courses out there where you can take an entire anatomy course in 3 weeks. And it's not that those are not acceptable for us, but I really question how much information are you really going to carry with you into PA school if you shoved the anatomy of the entire human body into a 3-week period of time while you're potentially working or doing other things. Think of prerequisites as these are things that I am taking because I want to be able to, understand things in PA school. This is your opportunity to learn information that you are going to take with you. It doesn't feel like it when you're going through chemistry. It doesn't feel like it sometimes in your micro course until all of a sudden you're talking about infectious diseases in your clinical medicine course and remembering some of those things that you learned in microbiology. So don't rush through prerequisites just for the sake of rushing through them, because you will struggle in PA school if you make it into a program. So that is my soapbox. We can move on and actually talk about the specific courses. First of all, anatomy and physiology. These are obviously very important and key to, you're working with the human body. So if you happen to be with an institution that they have an anatomy, but it's of, only vertebrates and the human part of it's this little teeny tiny spot, find an anatomy course elsewhere. Really, your focus, if you are going to be, working with humans, operating on humans, looking at, and understanding human diseases, please make sure your anatomy and physiology are both human based. I recognize you cannot sometimes control what's offered at your institution. And certainly if it was mostly a human focus and there was maybe some comparisons, that might be okay. But we would welcome the opportunity to give you feedback on it before you take it, or if you've already taken it, to let you know if we will accept it or not. But remember, every prerequisite you take can only help you as a future PA student. Microbiology for us, you can have general or medical, but I don't want you taking only bacteriology because you won't have that baseline for viruses or for fungi, but it needs to cover everything. And the other thing to talk about with the human anatomy and physiology, I don't care if it's A&P 1 and 2, or if it's anatomy standalone and physiology standalone, just as long as it's a sequence and that you've covered the entire human body. Next slide. We require one other course in one of the following. So if you had applied with us last year, we had a little bit more variability where we allowed you to choose which course. This year we decided, because we felt that we wanted to select course types that would actually be a little bit more beneficial for you in PA school, because we were seeing such great variability in the admissions process. So it must be one of these topics. Now, it may not be this name as the topic, but as long as it covers one of these areas, we will accept that course. And also last year, we required it to be upper division. This year, we don't have that requirement. Again, thinking about some of you, are going to a community college and taking courses after you've already finished, you're a post-bac student. And we want to make sure that we aren't creating further barriers for you. Next slide. So chemistry, we require 2 chemistry courses. The first one has to have a lab. Typically, this is a general chemistry or inorganic chemistry. And then the second chemistry course, again, representing a change from last year, is it must be in either organic chemistry, biochem, or medicinal chem. Again, thinking about a year of general chemistry is great, but it's not going to really apply as well to the human body. And when we're talking about all the different chemistry for the different pharmacotherapeutics, you're really going to want to have some kind of understanding of organic chemistry and or biochemistry. So your first chemistry semester can be just any chemistry you want, but you need to go on and make sure that you're getting some OChem or biochem and or medicinal chem if you do that. And then there's no lab required for us, but again, every PA program is going to have different prerequisites, so make sure you're checking. And the statistics course, you actually can take it through a math or through psych. We've seen statistics elsewhere. You just have to make sure it's really a general statistics class because we use a lot of statistics, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on your viewpoint of statistics. But really, we learn how to interpret all the new information that we get from journal articles about various treatments and things. And it's really important for you to have a baseline understanding of stats. So go ahead and we'll keep going. And then I'll clarify some of these questions for you. So the 1,000 hours of patient care experience needs to be hands-on direct patient care before you apply. So you have to have these 1,000 hours of experience in some way, shape, or form. Now, in our incoming class, the average is about 4,600. So it doesn't mean that 1,000 hours at a minimum, if you have 1,001 hours, that you're not going to make it into our program, but you're going to be a lot more competitive with the more hours that you have. And truly, the more experience that you have with actual patients, seeing patients in a healthcare setting, being able to understand how PAs and physicians and the other providers in your setting are thinking about patients and treating patients and understanding those processes, the easier it's going to be for you to put all this information together in PA school. Don't think about, again, with this healthcare experience, about going the easiest route that will get you the fastest number of hours, such as a COVID tester. COVID testing allowed, we will allow that. But you've seen one little teeny tiny part of the body and you've seen patients for very, very small period of time. And I get that you have had a lot of great experience because there was so much testing going on in the last couple of years and it has been very intense and you we're really helping to serve your community in that way. That's wonderful. But the application of that to your future and in patient care, what you saw of the patient is so narrow that you're going to struggle. So that kind of experience won't be as competitive as someone who has been a paramedic, who has seen the full gamut, who has treated patients for lots of different types of injuries, or a respiratory therapist, or a scribe. Scribes are so great because they learn that medical terminology and learn how providers think and are working, together to really help get that patient, see them from the beginning that they come in all the way to the end. So you're not limited. So again, these are examples. This is by no means an exhaustive list. There are certainly more ways that you can get healthcare experience. But again, don't just go on the path of least resistance. Think about what is going to prepare me to be a future PA, not just how can I check off this box that I got this done. Next slide. We also require references. So you need to have one healthcare provider, and then the second letter can be from really a wide variety of people. It can be in maybe another healthcare reference from someone in patient care. Maybe it's a professor who you worked with really closely, or maybe you're doing some research and you have a great research advisor who's working with you and kind of supervising your work and wants to write a letter for you. And then the third one can be your choice. We just ask that it not be from a family member or a personal friend. This really needs to be someone who has seen you in action, whether it's academically or in healthcare, or like we said, in research areas. Or maybe volunteerism. Maybe you do a lot of volunteer work and you want your supervisor to be able to talk about how much you love your community. I think that's great. So that third letter can be really anyone, but you have to have requested those 3 types of letters at the time that you submit your application to CASPA. So just make sure that you are selecting people who aren't just saying this person is so nice, but they can actually attest to what you can do and your skills and your abilities. And then again, CASPA is probably 98% of programs are using CASPA. So it is one centralized application, and you can select out of the 200, plus programs that use CASPA, you can actually select every single program that you would like to send your application to for a fee, of course. But everything goes there. Your transcripts all go there. Everything goes there. And then in CASPA for us, and we're not the only program that does this, there's a supplemental application that will give some short answer questions that we just really specify, that we feel give us a little bit more detail about who you are, more than we can just see on your big essay that you write to CASPA that all programs can see. So they're not meant to be intense. They're only 250 words or less. They're very, very brief. Next slide. So we also have preferences. So preference for admission is basically just an additional consideration. So it doesn't mean that if you don't have one of these that you are not going to make it in. It also doesn't mean if you have lots of these that you're a shoo-in either. It just means that if we were to look at 2 similar applications and one person had, one or more of these preferences and the other one didn't, the person with the preferences would probably be evaluated first in the process and possibly offered interview first. But this really is something that, it's a small consideration in the whole picture of who you are. So don't get discouraged if this is not you, but also if it is you, really, we have very specific reasons as to why we've chosen these preferences. And we, again, kind of evaluating you as a whole person. We recognize, that if you have had certain experiences, we want to make sure that we are providing additional consideration as well. And this is a pretty common practice across PA programs across the country as well. All right, this is our timeline. So right now we are in the middle of reviewing CASPA applications, but our deadline, if you can see the 2 red arrows here, the September 1st is a priority deadline, and then the December 1st is when CASPA closes. So for us, we are just providing a priority deadline. So if you apply before September 1st, you'll be offered early interview and acceptance. If you make it through to that point, you'll be one of the first ones to be reviewed because we review in batches. But our actual deadline is December 1st. Just make sure you're not waiting until December 1st to apply, because if you have like a technical glitch or anything like that, if your power shuts off for 2 days, we don't make any extensions for any, additional circumstances. So you have up until December 1st, but if you need all that time to apply, try to apply a day or two earlier than that. All right, so we are a provisionally accredited program. This is full accreditation. It's not that this is a different accreditation status as far as like, that we do not have accreditation from the ARCPA, which is the accrediting body for PAs. It just means we're new. And all brand new programs are given this type of accreditation if they make it through the process, which is called provisional accreditation. So what this basically means is that we have several visits coming from our accrediting body over the next 5 years, and we have to write several applications, and they're going to just make sure that we are doing what we said we were going to do when we applied for accreditation. So in order to obtain accreditation, we had to have all of our syllabi done. We had to have all of our clinical sites already in place, and we had to have agreements with them. There was so much that had to go into this accreditation process. But what it means is that if you become a student in our program, the ARCPA will actually be coming and talking to you. They'll be talking to us. They'll be talking to everyone here on campus to make sure that we are giving you the program that we had promised. So that's all that provisional accreditation means. So when you look at all the different programs, there are continued accreditation programs. That just means these are programs that have been in existence longer. And then there are provisional programs, which are the new programs as well. But your degree does not have any asterisk by it. You're still eligible to sit for our national certification exam, to graduate, and everything else. So that's what provisional accreditation means. Next slide. And this is our detail. So we have some amazing admissions reps that can actually go over, if you have specific questions about your healthcare experience, about your classes that you've taken, our admissions team is on top of it and incredible. They are top notch. And so please email them. We have a specific PA admissions counselor named Shelby that Johnny also posted her information in the chat. Shelby Moda, so it's S Moda, or you can do the admissions at kgi.edu, and absolutely every question will be answered, and we'll make sure that we get you the right information. We also have our website. I mentioned it has a ton of detail on our website, and then an Instagram, which is a little bit more of a fun way to get to know us. So absolutely, we want to make sure we get through some of this Q&A before we finish today. So please make sure that if you have a specific question about your experience, that you actually go through our admissions team. They'll ask us if it's not clear, because we want to make sure that we are able to, help support that. So yes. So I want to make sure we get to some of your Q&A. I think, Johnny, you were running some of the
why don't I go
so.
over a few that I didn't see get answered.
Thank you.
So let's start out with Shelby Carpenter asked, does the program find preceptors for students, or is it the responsibility of the student?
Yeah, I actually asked for that question to come up here at the end because it's one of the most common questions we get when we do these Q&A sessions. So, we are not requiring the students to find any clinical sites. That's actually my job and what Dr. Eskis has tasked me with doing. So I will make sure to have clinical sites for every single one of your rotations and to meet all of the demands for your passing, your boards, and moving on to be a PA. Now, that being said, if you have a site that you're very interested in, if you have a connection or a friend or a family contact or just some site you really think would really meet your educational goals best, we are definitely open to trying to use that site for you. And we will have forms and paperwork for you to be able to provide for them so that we can begin that process. There's a lot that goes into securing a clinical site, but I am definitely not opposed to all of you submitting sites or interests in where you'd like to be. And I will work my hardest to make sure that we can secure those sites if that site can meet the goals of KGI as well. Now, also that being said, when it comes to clinical sites, this is a very, very focused area of questions and a lot of interest. I just want to make sure that I tell you, when you talk about KGI's whole goal is, I hope you're hearing what I'm saying, is to make sure we prepare you well. So it's not just about having a wonderful clinical rotation or working with a friend or something like that. It's really about making sure we prepare you and making sure that you're ready to do the job, and that we do that by meeting all of our educational goals and our learning objectives. So sometimes that's a little more difficult than you think. But what my whole goal for clinical rotations is to try and meet your expectations, to try and meet your focus for employment and where you want to be. Sometimes that's by doing exactly the site you want to be, and sometimes that's by focusing on areas that you maybe need to improve on. So there's a lot of different variations on how clinical sites work, but we are open to all thoughts, suggestions, and input that you have as a student.
Awesome. Thank you. Here's another one that came through. When it comes to program flexibility, is it okay that some of the labs, course labs taken online due to COVID?
Absolutely. So yeah, we have no requirement for in-person versus online as far as those labs go, because we recognize that this has been a challenging season. So absolutely, those courses, we are evaluating them. Now, I know there's the pass-fail aspect of it as well, where some courses were taken for pass-fail. Unfortunately, right now, our policy is that the courses need to be taken for a letter grade. So we email us first with your specifics, because again, we recognize this has been an unprecedented time. So we want to make sure that we are providing you with, instead of making a blanket statement, that we're going to provide, that individualized evaluation, especially if it's something like your human anatomy and physiology. If you get a pass fail, to us, pass means probably a C in our minds. And so, because that's typically the level that you get a pass, even if you had gotten that 98%, we still need it to be somehow figured out for a letter grade. So, but if we would love to do that individually as well, to make sure that we are being considerate, but also sticking with, what our policies are and what's going to be best for preparing you, because there's no way of differentiating people who got a pass from, what the actual percentages were. I think this year we had someone submit a transcript that showed they had a 98% in the class, even though they got a pass. And we kind of debated that. So we email our admissions team specifically about the pass fail thing. And absolutely, someone mentioned the community college. We will absolutely accept community college credits for any of those prerequisites. Just make sure that it has that depth and breadth that you need. So it's not a introduction to anatomy that's a 2-unit course. Like, we have specific semester units that are required that are on our website. So be sure to check that out, because it details exactly semester and quarter.
Yeah, any specific questions like that when it comes to the prereqs and the requirements, definitely reach out to Shelby so she can do the proper review.
Yep.
And give you a guaranteed answer on any of that. And right now it looks like we are getting ready to run out of time here. So if you do guys have any other further questions, I'm going to put my name. I'm Johnny Lacey. I am new to KGI, so I don't have all your answers, but I can certainly find them out. And I'm going to put Shelby, and Shelby does oversee the PA admissions process. So I want to thank everybody today, Dr. Eskies, and the entire faculty of the PA program. You guys are amazing. And thank you everybody for joining us today. I wish we had more time, but here's Shelby's information as well one last time. And any last closing thoughts from any of your team, Dr. Eskies or yourself?
Yeah, I just want to thank you all for being here. I know it's over your lunch hour, or maybe you're in the East Coast or somewhere else where it's not your lunch hour, but we really do appreciate the chance. I hope this gave you a good overview of who we are. But as we mentioned, like, you need to find the right program for you and for your goals. So don't hesitate to really be on the search. Out of those 287 programs, you want to find that one that really sparks. The other thing is that the PA admissions process is extremely competitive. It's very common to have to apply 2 to 3 times in order to get into any PA program. So do not give up. This is your chance. So if this is meant to be your path, keep going with it. And we're here to help you along the way if you need anything from us too.
Awesome, awesome. And then one last thing, remember, we do have a summer program and it is called PASS. So it is really an awesome program. It can be done in person or online, and it really is a great overview. It allows you the opportunity to meet with faculty and work with staff and whatnot. And we also have the pre-PA program, which really is helpful to make you more competitive as an applicant. Okay. All right, everybody, have a wonderful day, and we wish you all the best and all the most success in your career path. Bye-bye.